For this video, I am going to be breaking down my level blockout, which is the beginning phase of my level design. I developed the blockout of my level based around the different principles of level design, whilst also planning to infuse a narrative-driven story. The game will be a walking simulator type game, with puzzle elements done by scripting events and traps that will span across this single level. The purpose of my blockout I have produced is to get a rough layout of the level I plan to develop in order to determine the flow, pacing, space, and size of it. I use the blockout to focus mainly on scripting to be able to playtest the game as soon as possible. However, the level is based mainly outdoors apart from a few sections, which is why the terrain is the main piece of this blockout, as it will provide a foundation for me to build upon. I used geometric shapes to outline different ideas for assets I wanted to use for the level itself, although nothing in the blockout is final. I will now go into more detail on the principles I have designed the game around. At the beginning of the game, the player will start in a small enclosed cave. In the book, An Architectural Approach to Level Design, it is written that if you are arriving in a big space, spaces leading up to it should be enclosed so the new space seems even bigger. Light spaces should be preceded by dark. This is something I plan to implement by the contrast between the narrow space of the cave into the reveal of the larger space, which is the open landscape, with the dark to light dramatic lead up. Dan Taylor, in his GDC talk, spoke about the broken circle principle. He explains that there is three types: explicit, implicit, and emergent. I plan to add this to my level by being explicit through different notes that I have playtested and scripted, and will add throughout the level to build up a backstory. Implicit is the player figuring out the story for themselves, and emergent is what the player thinks is going on. After leaving the cave, the player will have to climb a large mountain to reach the top of the island. I added verticality to the level after reading Tommy Norberg's Twitter post in which he says, "Verticality, always add verticality." Verticalities adds more detail to the level, making it more engaging for the player and interesting to look at. Tommy also wrote about sharp corners, which added anxiety and caution. I tried to add this by implementing a boulder trap for the player to encounter to keep them on their toes. When the player reaches the top of the island, I wanted to add a weenie to draw the player's attention. This is because of what Scott Rogers explained in his GDC talk. The weenie is to drive the player toward a specific object or location, like if you wave the weenie in front of a dog. Weenies are big and catch the eye, and provide a navigational point, which is what I wanted to do with my level. I wanted the player to want to be able to go there and be intrigued to see what or who was inside. The castle is always within view from this point and attracts the eye. However, this is not a directed path, and there are other things to do. It makes the player question if they should go straight to explore the castle or explore the rest of the world first. From this point on, this central fountain area will feel like the main hub for the player as they pass back and forth from this many times. I decided to do this after listening to Steve Gaynor and how he used zigzagging and backtracking when he designed Gone Home. He explained how he made a linear game feel non-linear by having linear progression through a non-linear space. The hub, central space, like the fountain in my case, which the branches of content extend off of. You have a choice of which way to go, but by adding a key system, which I have scripted and I plan to place all over the level, it doesn't let the player miss out parts of the map that I have created. I want players to zigzag through the map as much as possible from point A to B to C before reaching the end goal, so I can make the most of everything in the level. As the castle door is locked and needs a key, the player must choose another path. On the left side, I have blocked out a maze. I decided to do this after further reading of An Architectural Approach to Level Design. Regarding maze structures, it reads, "Their branching nature with potential dead ends implies a rich risk-reward structure, where the game asks you to weigh different uncertain options with the hope of choosing an advantageous answer. This is where one of the keys I scripted will lie." Along with these different principles, I've blocked out my level design based on the scripting I've done. I've scripted a basic health, respawn, and checkpoint blueprint so that the player can take damage from traps which have different triggers and also, when the player's health hits zero, they will respawn at the last checkpoint that they triggered. These systems are necessary to make the game engaging and fun, whilst also having a story. The story will be told by narrative, and I have done this by scripting audio to play when the player enters a location. I also plan to have audio for different surfaces the player walks on. A video by Game Maker's Toolkit titled How Level Design Can Tell a Story explained that you can use the environment to tell a story within level design. As I already have static objects like notes, I decided I wanted to use a vignette for the conclusion to my game. I plan to use this final principle to conclude the game's story and let the player figure out what's happened in their own mind.